Was a time of the preacher when a story begun. The choice of a woman and the love of a man, and how he loved her so dearly. He went out of his mind. Well, she left him for someone that she left behind. And he cried.
And we're live. Listen, folks, I just have to tell you that Garrett's over here complaining about football because, you know, the SEC schedule has been released for the fall. It's all SEC all the time, and that's exactly what he was complaining about. Is that not right, Mr. McHugh?
Well, it's the Big Ten had their schedule released, but then a week later they said,
The Big who?
Big Ten. There's 14 teams.
Is that a conference?
Yeah. Where's Georgia won recently? I'm just curious.
More than Nebraska.
Not at all, actually. We're on an equal playing
Okay,
field.
all right. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you. Glad you're here tonight. For we quit numbering these because we don't know what week it is. It's
Like
been a long time.
17, 18, something like that.
It's been a long time, and I just want to say hello to everybody that's out there saying hello and watching tonight. We have a very special guest, which we're going to get to here in just a minute. I'd like to say hello to my neighbor, Sabrina. Also, Tim Riles, who thought we were interviewing Jalen Hurts tonight. My friend Albert Mills from Michigan. Victoria Hunt. Hey, Victoria. Let's see. Nana is watching. Carly Grawl, my other neighbor, is watching. Hey, Terry Olive, Jane McCauley, Cindy Cooper McBrayer downstairs. Hey, Renee McGee, and Gary Hedges has joined us.
Gary.
And we'll try to say hello to other folks as they join us tonight.
You didn't say it right.
Gary.
He's from Australia.
He's from
we
Australia,
always
so
say
we
that.
always have to say Gary. Gary, if you hear us, you should chime in right now. That'd be a good time.
He's going to leave a angry emoji.
Yeah, he probably is. So we're gonna do our best to get through the next hour, and I
Yes.
say that because we had, even if I did run the grill tonight, that was a good steak, wasn't it, boys?
Oh man,
It was.
I don't have words.
Oh,
It's just man,
man, it's good.
it was.
I hope your
And the
wife.
potato
I
salad.
hope your wife isn't watching this because you said you were just gonna tell her you had cheese and crackers.
I did. I had cheese and crackers. I did have cheese and crackers.
Hey, my good friend David Beavers is on here. Hey, David Beavers from Nashville, Tennessee. Our special guest tonight, Mr. Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones, welcome to the upper room here where we do this every Wednesday night. It's good to have you.
Glad to be here. Really glad to be here.
Jalen is, and he'll introduce himself here in a little bit, but Jalen has been a part of a series of marches, and it's even hard to call them protest. I've been on a couple of these with you. They were too uplifting to be protests. But following the death of George Floyd, as a young African-American man right here in Walton County, you got busy.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that tonight. But before we even do that, who in the world is Jalen Jones?
Oh, man.
Because we've been trying to come up with a title for
He's
you.
probably asking himself that.
Maybe.
Who is Jalen Jones? Do I know? Oh, man. I don't know. Jalen Jones, I feel, people ask me that. I just feel real simple. Like, I'm a guy. I love God. Like, really, really love Jesus. Love sports. Born in Crestview, Florida. Stayed in Crestview till about 5th grade. Parents were divorced, so I lived with my mom till about 5th grade, and I moved with my dad to Defuniak Springs. Got to Defuniak, began to get involved in a lot of extracurricular. I cannot get that out. Wow, extracurricular activities.
A lot of stuff outside the classroom.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly
all
what
right.
I meant, right? and I just was a busybody, and I guess that became a part of me. So I like doing stuff. I like being a part of what's going on. I don't like just sitting on my butt. And got involved in a bunch of sports and all that. Football took me to Illinois, where I went to Trinity International University, played ball there. There, God kind of really put it on me, like, you're gonna be a ministry guy. Like he put it in my heart. I have a desire for that more than anything. I would just doing ministry, whatever that means, whatever he's leading me to do. And I also have a passion to see the youth and help the youth out with just help the youth out with trying to get where they got to go, because it's hard out here for the youth. I'm starting to realize.
And you say youth, and you're terribly young yourself. 23?
Yes, sir.
But it's an eternity from 13 to 23, isn't it?
It feels like, especially nowadays. Yeah. Absolutely. But I don't know. That's a good point. I'm young myself, but I mean, there's just not a lot of people who are my age doing it, and I just.
Well, that's a question I had. I'm glad you said that, because that's a question I had. You know, there are hundreds of young African American men and women in Walton County, but not hundreds that have taken on by choice this role of and it's not a protest role; it's a reconciliation role.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. You know, I've had that conversation. Yeah. What moved you to say, you know, I can be a part of the solution? You know, instead of just complaining about how things are, I could actually be a part of a solution. What moved you to do that?
I don't know. I always had like a fire in me. I'm not afraid to be out in front. I'm not afraid to take whatever heat that comes with being out in front. So I guess the things started happening with Ahmaud getting shot, and then we had George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the even in the past the Trayvon Martins and stuff. So I'm like, I'm feeling this kind of way. I know my brothers and sisters are. There's nobody stepping up. Like, I'm a firm believer in God doesn't need you to be all this and that. He just needs you to say yes. So I said yes, I'm a step. And I just stepped, and all the protests, everything, I stepped, and I just kept moving forward, and he was putting things in line and putting things in order. So I don't think it was nothing special. It's just, I said, yeah, I would.
Right place, right time.
Right place, right time.
You have a question there, Garrett? You said you had a whole bunch of questions tonight, Garrett. Now, I hogged our time. I took so much of the time with Sarah last week because, and I was cutting you off. I did. I was cutting you off, and so I wanted to be conscious of that tonight.
Right. I mean, I'm curious how, you know, since you guys have done the walks and you've had a couple of experiences with that, and a pretty strong following of people of all walks of life come along to support and say, hey, we recognize there's an issue. It's deeply rooted, and we realize it's time for change. It's time for something to happen, something to take place. And so, and what's been your experience, you know, from saying yes, like, hey, I'm, you know, God, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to step out. I'm going to step up. I'm going to lead these peaceful protests. I'm going to have people joining behind me in this thing. What's been your experience, you know, through this process of taking on this role, which is huge. It's a massive role to be a voice, to be a beacon of light in the community. So what's been your experience through all of this so far?
As far as like, when you say experience, you mean as far as putting it all together? And
how has the response been? How would you say it? Pretty divided, or?
I mean, there's not a lot of in between. I'll say that.
Gotcha.
They either hate you or they love you.
Right.
So I mean, I got a lot of response, a lot of people saying, "Hey, why are you doing this? This didn't happen in Defuniak. Ain't nothing like this happened in Defuniak. George didn't die here. Why are you doing this? Hey, we got peace. We're cool. Why are you getting everybody wild up?" And then I have on the flip side people saying, "Thank you so much. Like I've had a heart for this going on. Like my white brothers and sisters, a lot of them were like, I got a heart for this. Like I don't know what to do though." So they said, "Thank you so much for stepping up and giving me a way to communicate and to come and show my support and ask me what can I do now, or or they'll be able to get connected with somebody who can help them in, you know, continuing that road." So it's been a lot of that. It was a lot of even people, and there was a lot of thing that kind of surprised me, where a lot of my young black brothers and sisters, there was some of them that was just like they ain't gonna let us do that right here. These white folks, these cops are not gonna let us do all that. It was some of that, and that surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
But so it's it's a either you with it or you're not. That's what it kind of felt like.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of a follow-up question. What's been a really nice, pleasant surprise through this? I mean, is there a story that sticks out that you're like, man, that gives me hope? Like that gives me strength. A conversation, maybe perhaps with somebody that you had along the a walk, or anybody that's messaged you. What's given you hope in this? That when you look at this and you go, man, something is happening. Like it wasn't just an event, but it's an ongoing revolution.
There was a lot of things that moved me, but always when I look back at it, one of the biggest moments that seemed so simple was during the first protest in the Funiac. There were two. There was one. I think she may have been a high school girl, and she was there with her younger sister and her dad. And as I was walking past, she was like, "Hey, excuse me, sir. Like, this is my sister's first time. Both of our first times going to something like this. Like, can you say something to us?" So I had a moment just to encourage them, like, "Hey, God's gonna put things on your heart. Like, don't be afraid to step. Don't be afraid to move. Like, He brings change through the youth." So I had an opportunity to encourage them, and I think that piece is what kind of hits me the most. Well, one of the moments that kind of hit me the most, because that's where I believe the change is going to come. It's going to come from them, and just the fact that they were there, and then they have the desire to grab me and say, "Can you talk to me?" They were reaching for it. Like, so when a kid like that is just like wanting you to speak to them, it's like, all right, something's there. So I may never ever see them again, but
Right.
that moment right there is like, no telling what could come from that. You know, they could step up and then influence a whole nother generation just because somebody took the time to say, "Hey, like, you got it in you." So I mean, that moment was big, and as far in other moments, that's kind of meant a lot. I've had a couple of them, different people, because I hold the weight of the wisdom. I hold wisdom is very heavy to me. So having the older generation pull me aside and say, "Hey, let's talk," and pour out the knowledge and wisdom that I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to if it wasn't for this. That's been a big deal too. And it's happened so many times I can't like pick and point like which exact one, but that's also been a big moment, big deals for me.
You had a moment when the walk at Grayton. Speaking of moments, when you have a pretty large turnout, which was surprisingly large turnout that day, and we're walking down to the beach, and you intentionally, graciously engaged with a gentleman who was across the street and had a massive Confederate flag, and you walked over to talk to him. And as soon as you walked across the street, you know, a half a dozen police officers jumped out of the car and came running over there. And but you, that was a really good conversation. Would you mind sharing a little bit of what happened in that encounter that day? Because I only heard about it later, because I was like everybody else saying, what is he doing up there? You know,
Meerkat. What's going on?
Yeah, I guess that would probably had to be like the second biggest moment. I'm overlooking that, but he was just, as we was walking by, he just was, you know, I think he was chanting "All Lives Matter" or something. And
Right.
then as I was going by, I had the crowd. I was very proud of the crowd, because I started chanting "We love you," and they echoed it. So
Right.
I was like, you already know how we're feeling over here. And then he was like, "I have a question." And I wasn't going to pay him no mind. I'm like, he wants confrontation, whatever. But in like a split second, I'm like, no, like, this is what change is. This is what we need to do. This is the conversations that need to take place more than, and that moment was almost more important than us coming together and marching, in the sense that we're all on the same page, you know. Right. Now, somebody's on the opposite page, we can stop and talk and have that conversation. And, it may not change them at all, or maybe it will, or maybe it planned to see. I don't know, but that's what needs to happen. So I had a moment to stop. I took off my little megaphone, went over there, and I was like, "What's up, man?" And his first response wasn't really a question. He was like, "Well, don't all lives matter?" And then he just kept going. He didn't want to answer. So I figured that out real quick. Like, he didn't want to hear. He wanted to be heard. And I'm like, "I can listen to you. That's no problem."
Right.
So I listened to it go on about this and that. And he had a boot on the ground that was covered. He said, I guess I guess somebody in his family fought in the Confederate Army or something. I don't know. He
Right.
had to boot something, and I was just like, yeah, man, like I understand. I was going to try to explain to him the All Lives Matter thing, but he didn't want to. He wasn't trying to hear, so I just listened to him talk, and then I just ended the conversation like, hey, it's all love, man. Like, we're here, we're marching, it's all love.
Right.
So it wasn't an in-depth conversation like I would have hoped to have with him. But the moment was definitely a big moment, especially when you're seeing the pictures of it. Like I didn't grasp how big that moment was.
It was pretty big. Yeah, it was pretty big.
Yeah. And I had go ahead.
I just found it was especially when I kind of get the backstory how powerful that moment was, because I mean, he could have been and you could have been very confrontational.
Absolutely.
There were many people in the crowd that felt he was confrontational just for sitting there on the route. I didn't feel that way. I felt he was making a statement, and it's his right to make that statement.
It is, yeah.
And I found it so powerful when you walked across the street to him, sort of like you said, you took off your megaphone, like I'm coming over here unarmed, man. I'm not. It's just me and you're gonna talk.
Yeah.
And I applaud the sheriff's department that day. They were really, and I thanked them all.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that one of my next questions, and I know you'll answer it. But I thought it was really powerful, and I thought you speaking with him diffused the heckling that could have taken place on down the line, because that happened a little later as we're walking down the road and some folks are driving up, out of Grayton, and had some things even said to me, and I'm just standing there and I'm like, what? And so I engaged an individual later that day, but the conversation was not, as shall we say, as edifying as the conversation you had. But and it wasn't just mean, but it was obvious that people have preconceived ideas about so much of this. So here's the questions. Jalen Jones, are you anti-police?
I'm not anti-police.
I knew the answer to that.
Everybody should know.
I mean, we've talked about that.
Yes,
so
I'm not that. But that's a good question, though, because a lot of people assume if I say defund the police, oh, you hate the police. No, because I've shared some stuff with the defund the police on it, and people get testy and stuff. But as I learn more about it, it's not get rid of police. Is they have the money to get these. I'm different. They was explaining. I don't even know it as well. I'm still learning it. But no, I don't hate the police. They're bad. There's bad police and there's good police. It's hard to have a bad policeman because he has so much power, and there is systems that's set in place and been in place since forever. The good old boy system, whatever you want to call it. So there's absolutely there's issues with them, but I'm not anti-police.
Yeah, I know that, and that's one thing that can be misunderstood. And the other thing is the flavor of a protest you might see in a major U.S. city is not the flavor of every single protest in the United States.
Absolutely.
They all take on the role of all politics is local. Tip O'Neill said years ago, long before you were born. But it's true. So much of that is rooted at home. What do you say to folks who say, "Oh, this Black Lives Matter stuff, it's just a Marxist organization that's trying to overthrow"? They're all they want is chaos and anarchy. What do you say to someone like that? Because I know you have those conversations as well.
Absolutely. My thing is, do Black Lives Matter? Simple. No extra, no politics, no agendas, nothing attached to that. It's just simply do Black Lives Matter. And if you have any kind of a decent heart, Black lives do matter. And it doesn't mean all lives don't matter or whatever, but Black lives do matter. So I know there's the Black Lives group that is Marxists or whatever, all that is.
Whoever they are.
And got all these different political ties and stuff. I feel like there's two different kinds. There's the movement and then there's the group. You have people who are in the group, and the group, I don't agree with everything they say. I agree Black Lives Matter, but I'm not a Marxist or what. And they have some other stuff people have brought up that I don't agree with. And political ties that I'm not a part of or anything. But I feel like as far as the movement, that's what a lot of people are actually a part of up compared to the group. More people are part of the movement of it. Of
Right.
like, hey, we just want things to get better. Simply, like we don't have no kind of quote unquote agenda. I guess you know what I mean. Like we just want things to get better. You have those who are Christians. You have those who aren't Christian. It's not about necessarily religion. It's not about politics. It's about life. Like we want life to get better for us, and that may affect politics, and it may affect this area and that area. But it's just simply we want Black Lives Matter. We want things to get better. We want relations and communities to not be divided. We don't want blacks over here, whites over here, and you know. So that's more of how I explain it to them. Like it's two different things.
Right, and that's kind of where I've seen the disconnect for a lot of people is they hear the Black Lives Matter and they associate it with the organization, in which you even just said I would agree to a lot of what you're agreeing to, which is this agenda that isn't Christ oriented or that isn't really even gospel oriented or like the way of Jesus, but really, yeah, it's just simply saying Black Lives Matter, and my life matters. It's not to to delineate against any other person.
Absolutely,
it's just to simply say there's been deeply rooted issues in American history, and it's been against the black man. So what can we do? What's the simplest thing we can do now moving forward to show love and reconciliations, to recognize that there are issues and say, yeah, I might not have been a part of that in the past, okay? But I'm a part of the future. And it starts with me recognizing Black lives do matter. And what can I do to help support that? What can I do to help support you in the groups of people that are throughout the U.S. being marginalized, oppressed in different ways? And, I've had conversations with people, via Facebook Messenger and a couple different phone calls. I've talked with a good friend of mine a few different times from college, a young black man, well, young. He's my age. He's 33. He's still young.
He's young.
But just trying to learn and hey, like, what's been your experience, in all of this? And how can I be a part of the group that says we want to lead change? And it's first recognizing and becoming aware, because there, like I said, there's a lot of people in that middle ground that are like, well, all lives matter. Well, nobody's saying they don't.
Yeah,
I think, and you may have shared this because I've seen it in a couple places and have had the same discussion where Jesus in the parable of the lost sheep says, there are 99 that are found, but he leaves them because they're safe.
Yeah.
And he goes out to the one. And I forget who it was. It may have been you who shared this with me. It may have been someone else. But that became for me really a crystal clear explanation. You're not saying that a black life matters more. You're saying a black life matters as much as any other life, but the black life has been marginalized. Yeah. It is the one over here that deserves and needs some attention to get it back to a place of equality with the rest. Is that how you would?
And absolutely. And both of y'all kind of were talking about it. It made me think it. And that's why it's so important that when we talk about this issue, it has to be a God thing. The foundation has to be Christ. Because when you try to go at something that's this deep and so tense and stuff, it can't be reconciled on any other foundation because it's going to fall.
Amen to that.
So like when I go out and I'm doing the protest, I'm like, hey, this is a Jesus thing. Like if I'm up here, it's a Jesus thing. And what's happened a lot of the time is the message of reconciliation has been overlooked, and a lot of people are looking for revenge, and there's no peace. There's nothing. We're not going to be able to come together and have peace on that. It has to be reconciliation. It has to be love. It has to be Jesus, and that's the only way things are going to get better.
Yeah, that's what's been interesting in all this too is the misunderstanding of why people are so angry. And to begin with, if people understood a little bit more of the history and I don't claim to know a lot about it, but I've done the work to start learning more about it. If people understood and started asking the question for real, like genuinely, why are they so angry? Like, why are they rioting? And yeah, we might come to disagreement on why they're rioting. Hey, they shouldn't be doing that. Right, they shouldn't be destroying property and whatnot. But they're angry. Why? I think it starts there too.
Absolutely.
With that recognition and understanding. Go deeper than the simple, I'm upset because they're rioting. Well, really?
Why are they right? And the Bible says, in all thy getting is getting understanding. And we need to start understanding each other. Okay, the riots aren't right, but why are we rioting? And though I don't agree with the rioting, I can understand. Like, if you've been treating me wrong for all these years, like, I'm gonna want to tear some stuff up, and
But it goes back to what you said. Like, if it starts with reconciliation in Jesus,
It takes a spirit-filled man or woman to say, I'm not going to tear this street up when you're angry, right?
Absolutely.
It takes the same person in the home to say, I'm not going to tear this up. I'm mad.
And my Lord, the news is full of white people mad because they have to wear a mask.
Sorry.
Well, am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
They're fighting mad over a mask.
I don't want to wear a mask, Ronnie.
And I'm not even getting into that. Don't even start sending hate mail about that. That's But my point being is that we can get in touch with our own frustrations pretty quick.
Yeah.
We live in a country that's on the edge of frustration, right, left, everywhere. So you're right. I mean, just let's try to, understand the long-standing historical, genuine grievance that is there.
Yeah.
And we got a long way to go, to come to understanding. But I don't see any other way outside of the Spirit of God and the Spirit of Christ.
Yeah. 100%.
Because the best model in the 20th century was South Africa. Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela, they set up the Reconciliation Commission and basically said, we're going to come clean. There's not going to be any retribution, but we're going to tell the truth about what has happened.
Yeah.
And that allowed genuine healing to take place.
Absolutely.
We talked about it at dinner tonight. I am a son of the Confederacy. My great-great-great-great-grandfather was taken prisoner of war on the Chattahoochee River in the Battle of Atlanta in 1864. Fighting for what? His daddy owned slaves up in Gordon County where I grew up. And he was fighting for that. To the day he died, my granddaddy called it the War of Northern Aggression. That was one generation ago, okay? Not that we ain't talking about hundreds of years ago. It's a deep-seated anger about that, and it perpetuates generation to generation. And somebody has to say, this merry-go-round is stopping, and I'm getting off.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to pass it on. And you may be right. You may be right that the young people who are coming, and and baby boomers and Xers and millennials are even more scared of the younger ones who are coming. We need not be too scared. We were all that age.
I'm not scared.
We were all that age. They may have within them the understanding and I want to ask you this question: not color blindness, but color appreciation. Because you said in a rally, and it really zinged. Don't use that phrase colorblind. Talk about what you mean by that.
Oh, I would love to, because a lot of people say it, and I understand. And that's the thing, too. When people say stuff, people like to go off the words. I want to go off the heart, like what you really mean. And so you say it, I'm like, I understand what you're trying to say. So I don't snap on people saying it. But it's like when you say you're colorblind, it's saying, we're cool. I ain't even, because your color is not a factor. Like if your color was a factor, then that's kind of what it communicates. Like if I'm like, oh, we could be cool because I don't see glasses. You like, what, you got an issue with glasses?
What?
You got an issue with glasses?
Yeah.
So
they're only for looks.
So it's it's kind of the same thing. And I think color is a big deal. I mean, and this isn't, don't take this to the but this is just how I feel about it when I look at it. Like when you look in the Bible, you can see when the Bible is talking about so and so begat so and so begat so and so. So when I read that, it communicates to me that where you come from and what you look like, it has some kind of value. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know who you come from. And if you talking about who you come from, I know back in those days, your father's name holds weight. But I'm also going to guess like the properties that came with being a part of that family as well, like the color of your skin or the way you look or whatever it is. I feel like it has value. So I feel like you don't say you colorblind and make my color feel like it's an issue. Just say I see your color, I see your difference, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's just respect it. I respect yours, you respect mine. You don't have to don't try to overlook it and downplay it. Because some people might feel some way about it, but as a young black man or young black girl, whatever, like we don't have a choice to be colorblind because the media is mostly one way, and politics, and we had Obama as president, but apart from that, it's all the history, everything, So we don't have a choice to be colorblind. So we don't want you to be colorblind. We want you to see and say, okay, I see you.
That's great because that's a it's such a white man thing to say. I say, "Oh, brother, I don't see your color," and I know the heart is probably reaching in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I'm learning that that's not because I hate to use this phrase. That is again whitewashing the issue. Mm-hmm. The fact is there are dramatic cultural, racial differences. In the spirit of Christ, it's not that we're colorblind, but that there's neither male nor female, Jew nor Greek, slave nor free. It's that there is an equality within the differences that can be celebrated.
Absolutely.
And appreciated.
Absolutely. We was talking about that yesterday. I go to was it yesterday? Tuesday. Yeah, yesterday. I go to a men's group and we were talking about the core of man. Because were we in John 17? I believe so. And we're talking about like all of us are men. We have black men, white men, big, tall, old, young. Like we don't all look the same. We don't all like the same things. But when you get down to the core of it, like at least in that room, like we're lovers of Jesus. Like there's some core things that are going to be the same in all of us, even though it's not going to look the same. We're not going to enjoy the same things. There's a core in us. And even if those who aren't in the church or whatever, like we're humans when it comes to the core of it, if you don't believe in Jesus. So you got the differences, but at the core there is something that is similar and alike to each other.
It's like a bag of M&Ms, man.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah. That's pretty. That might be profound for you coming from Nebraska.
Coming from Nebraska.
The N stands for national
yeah.
champions. How many has
All right,
Georgia
let's
had
cut
that?
his mic. Let's cut his mic.
I'm the one that cuts it.
Oh yeah, you are. You're in control. And Jalen, you've never flinched when I've seen you speaking publicly that you've said, in front of the police, in front of blacks, whites, right, left. You make no apologies that Jesus is the center of what you're about, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
How have you found, and it's a good tradition, Dr. King, and even before Dr. King, that people of faith were the ones in the black community, even before emancipation, faith leaders have held the black community together at times, but have also held that standard of freedom ahead of them. How has your faith personally, with your family, with your church, how has it informed and shaped what you do? And you're a young man, but obviously your faith is very important to you already. Yeah. How has it shaped what you do?
I feel like it shapes a lot of the way I do it. The patience that comes with it, and the love that comes with it, and the having to zip my mouth closed. I think faith has a big part in keeping my mouth closed, because you have a lot of people who say different things, feel a different way. But my faith, as far as shaping me, it gives me a lot of patience. And I'm not perfect, but I feel like I do things with a lot of love. with a lot of love. And I also think my faith gives me boldness, because I do feel like, God has led me to do this, because I've been thinking about it for a long time. I remember when I lived in Texas for a split second, and I had a friend there, and I told my friend, I'm like, man, if I wasn't Christian, I'd probably be a activist or something. And in my head, I'm like, those two don't mix. But then I got here, and it happened, and it hit me so hard, and it was so deep. And I prayed about it, and I'm like, I got to do something. And so I feel like, God having that faith is giving me that boldness to say, okay, step out, and I'm gonna set everything up for you. Because to be honest, with the first protest, all I did was put it out there. I said, all right, I feel like God's leading me to do this. I said, hey, who will be down for a protest? Got a few response. So I said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to meet up here. We're going to have a protest. And everything that I would need to make that protest as good as it was, it came to me. I didn't have to go chase anything.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt that answer with another question, because something happened at that first protest that I admired. Mm-hmm. You get to the crossroads, you turn left, and you go to the courthouse. But there was a group of people waiting for a confrontation there. And you turned right and went to the park instead. You adjusted the route to avoid unnecessary confrontation, is the way I understood it happened. Did that happen on the fly? Were you told in advance, man, there's folks over there that are just itching? Or what happened that day? Because it was a very wise thing to do, given this enormous crowd, very diverse crowd, black, white, Hispanic, everybody there from all over the county and beyond. And you made a calculated decision that day to avoid that unnecessary confrontation. What was going on in your mind? Then I'll let you answer the rest of it.
Nah, actually, that was it was a decision that I made beforehand. Most of the time when people ask me why I did it, I don't tell them it's because of them. I don't want them to have that power, so I tell them I just wanted more. I needed more space because I had more people than I expected.
Well, you did.
But that was definitely
That's true.
But I did do that because we were there for a reason. And I didn't want any distractions. I didn't want any confrontation, any fight. Like, we're not there for that. We're there for one thing, and that one place isn't gonna change what we're here for. It is not going to affect anything. So I had like I said, I had some I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but I had an older guy. He's a leader in the community in the Funiac, and he reached out to me and we had a discussion. He was just telling me about it, and I had to go and sit on it and chew on it, and like, all right. He's bringing it up, so it really is an issue. So what can I do to keep everybody safe and to be smart? I'm like, all right, let's move from there, and we're going to go to another place where it ain't a lot of tension, so we can focus on what we're here to focus on.
Well, there were a couple of people in the crowd, the reason I was asking that, who were like, oh, let's go to the courthouse. I'm ready. And I was like, I don't think that's the spirit of this thing.
I had a lot of, even when we did a protest for the Confederate flag, and we actually went to the courthouse, all of the counter protesters were circling around the monument. So I'm like, hey, like, we want it to be, but no, like, what we're going to do is going to go on the other side of the hedge just to keep the tensions down so we can get our message across.
Right. So
I had people, are you sure? You we want to force your way. It's not. And people think it's about what's the word I'm looking for? It's about trying to fight. Like, it's not. It's trying to fight. It's just standing up. You know what I mean? So, like, I didn't want, like, it's not trying to get in their face and get this close and provoke them to fight. That's not what it's about. Fighting, you have your fights and your wars and stuff, but that's not going to really help anything. We beat each other up, somebody wins, and then that doesn't change anybody's mind, anybody's heart. Things are still the same. So, yeah, it was... I just didn't want any distractions. I wanted love. I wanted people to hear and change, because even I had somebody during the first protest, I had somebody call me before the protest and it just was questioning me, like, Jalen, where you from? What'd you do? Older white guy. And me just being me, I'm just going to be honest and answer his questions. And he was like, so where you from? Where you from? All this and that. And then he ended the conversation talking about, have you been in the military or in service or something? I'm like, no. He's like, I don't know how a 22-year-old guy is going to control. I think at that time it was supposed to be like 300 people. He's like, I don't know how a 22-year-old guy is going to control 300 people. And I'm like, all right. So he had all these doubts and stuff, but after the protest, he had to call me back and say, Jalen, man, I gotta say, you did your thing, pretty much. So like, if we would have went down there and tore it up, he wouldn't have to eat his words. He wouldn't have to sit with, wow, okay, like I had my view of this happening like this, but it didn't. Maybe I'm wrong about something. Maybe I can think about something. His heart isn't hardened because we went out there and act crazy.
Right.
If we go out there and act crazy, their hearts are gonna. I told him, I know it. I knew ain't nothing. That's what I don't want to happen.
Right, right, absolutely. And it's not that everybody in Funiac Springs has been encouraging either. There's been a pretty bold like smear campaign at times to knock old Jalen down. Anything, every bad thing you've ever done, they want to wash it out.
Absolutely, man. They were quick. They wasn't playing with me. Especially with the first protest, it was a little bit lighter. But once I said I was going to that Confederate flag, man, they got nasty.
Yeah,
real nasty.
Yeah,
and that was just comes with the territory.
What sustains you when they're just they're kicking you all over the place? Mm-hmm. What keeps Jalen from saying I'm just going back to Crestview?
God. That's the only thing that could, when things like that start happening, like I have to slow myself down and be like, all right, I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna listen to my worship music. God, I know you leading me to do this, so I'm not gonna walk off from it. And I understand the importance and what comes from standing through the hard moments. Like if I can't get through the hard moments, I'll never be great. And we're just talking about this, but I'm like even on a bigger scale, like I feel this was on a personal level, I felt like God just testing me and seeing and showing me things as well. But like, can you handle the pressure? Mm-hmm. You want to be great. You want to do things like this, but this is what comes with it. Can you handle what people say? And can you stand up and still not be nasty, still be a man about it, still love, even when they're being nasty? Can you shut your mouth when they're talking about stuff they have no idea about and let them run their mouth and still keep moving forward? Because people thought they could bring my stuff up that it happened in the past or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, I'm so scared. Like I'm a coward away. No, that's so though it hit hard at moments, I just reminded myself like, God led me to do this. He's gonna take care of it, and I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna lay down. I want to be great. I want to do great things, and I know that God is shaping me and showing me different things and how it's gonna be. So when it got to that, I always remember my why, and I prayed. So I remember my why, and I pray, and I would just.
I don't think there's many of us that want to be judged by what happened in high school. I don't.
Yeah.
But I know it's just an ugly side of what people. A dog gets a bone and he chews on it. I mean, that's what's going to happen, and especially if they felt like, oh, this upstart young kid, we're going to put him in his place.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. A question here, real quick. Someone says, do you think the protests will bring change since there are more young people, more white people protesting, or will it still take a long time?
I think no matter what you do, change is going to take a long time, especially when we're talking about race relations, because you got to remember, like, this is sewn into the foundations of America. We were brought over in ships, and we weren't even counted as men. We were like three-fifths men or whatever like that, and we had to fight through the civil rights era, all that stuff. So that's not just going to, a couple protests is going to fix it. That's something that for years and years and years we're going to have to fight on. When you look back at MLK and the protests and the boycotts, like it wasn't a couple weeks and they got what they were looking for. It was like years and just the consistency. And consistency is what separates us from staying the same or change.
Right.
I can hit hard. That protest hit hard. Like it was like 600 people there. But if we don't have people who really got their feet in the ground saying I'm a step day to day with this, that protest doesn't mean anything.
I think you touched upon it earlier. Just with it starting in the home too.
Yes.
The protest is the big event. We were talking about this with just youth ministry in general. It's so important and vital that it starts in the home too. So you could do the event, you could go out and do that, but if you're not educating in the home, like my oldest son is 7 years old, and he's becoming more aware. for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. They actually for Black History Month, prior to COVID and shutdown and everything. I mean, they were learning about pivotal, influential persons in American history, of Black history, and so he's asking me a whole bunch of questions, and he's starting to become more aware. Hey, this person is a Black person, and it's having the conversation with them. Like, yes, it's important to recognize that, but remember, it's coming back with remember, this doesn't make them different. Black doesn't make them any different than you. If you ever see anybody treating someone else based on race, religion, or anything of that sort, if you see anyone being mistreated, you stand up for that person. It starts in the home.
Yes.
It has to. It can't. And so you're talking about consistency in years and years and years. That's where it begins. Educating our kids.
Absolutely.
Becoming aware of the differences ourselves and moving towards that change. I do have a quick question for you though. So for you mentioned you work with kids. What is your message to them?
Like with
I mean, like, I don't want to put it just and leave it there, but like, with all that's going on and with this movement and the protests and in talking about race issues and reconciliation, what is your message of hope to them? What is something that you want to leave with them, a legacy of sorts? If you have a message to say to them, even our viewers now, what is it that you want to implant and impress upon them?
I guess first thing that for anybody is to stand up and speak up. Regardless of your age or where you're at, you're not too old, you're not too young. If you see something and you know what's right from wrong, speak up, say something. Don't be afraid to stand out. And secondly, do it in love, because love is the only way to truly change something. You can't come in any other spirit because it's not powerful enough. It's just not. So do what you do, stand out, be bold, and do it in love so that people can receive it no matter where they're from. Love is a language everybody speaks. Some people might be a little bit more hardened to it, but love is something that hits everybody. So do what you do, be bold, and do it in love. No matter if it's racial stuff or it's this and that or this and that, whatever it is, be bold and do it in love.
Is that the same advice you'd give to a couple white preachers in white churches?
Oh,
I mean, how?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Now, I'm from my heart here, and I got emotional at dinner telling you about my own son. But I wonder sometimes, on any Sunday that I speak, maybe less so since quarantine because our audience has changed, but when I stand in behind a lectern on Sunday mornings in my church building, 99% of the people are going to be white. That's probably not good in its own right, that we're so segregated on Sunday mornings. But given what it is, what does a white pastor, a white middle-class pastor say to a white middle-class church about reconciliation, about race? And you're deeply rooted in the black church and that black tradition that is so strong and powerful. What would you say from your place to us?
I guess I would say it's funny because I actually was able to go to a church who was having an initial racial conversation since all of this had happened. They have white and black, and it's been a little bit tense. And we got in there, and it was tense because the pastor, and one of the biggest things was the pastor hadn't said anything from the pulpit about it at all. And I think that's the one thing that no pastor should do, is not say anything about it from the pulpit.
Because it's real.
It's real. And
Right.
that's as simple
it's
as
real.
that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
real. And that's one thing about churches that sometimes get to me. Not all churches are like this, but sometimes you have the churches who are so separated from what's going on in the world that they just show up on Sunday, they get words straight from the Bible, don't apply it, don't do anything. I feel like just as a church, even if we're not talking about race, things need to be discussed. What's going on in the world? How do we as Christians handle that? We have in the racial conversation, absolutely, because we're all brothers and sisters in Christ.
Right.
So it don't matter if you at the church around the corner and I'm at the church right here on the corner. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. So I should know what's going on with you. And if you have a leader, that leader should be making sure that they're making sure on their end that they're making you aware of what's going on. And so I feel like simply white preachers need to say something, and you don't have to get up there and preach a whole 2-hour sermon on it. That would be good, but you don't have to do that. But just, mention it, talk about it. And we say white preachers, but I feel like white, black, Mexican, Asian, whatever you are, I feel like the pastors in the cities should be meeting up together. There should be times where I don't feel like there's nothing wrong with, going to the church that you like. Because we talk about churches are segregated, but somebody said something to me that made a lot of sense is we got our different styles. And that's true. And that's true. You go to a black church, you feel like you held hostage. You go to a white church, most of the time you get out right on time. Like music different. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a different feel. It's a different feel. So I don't blame you for having your different feel, but it shouldn't be always your feel. And I remember I asked my men's group this question, a second one I go to. I said, does God care about us being comfortable? And that question, I like that question because a lot of people have different answers and they have good explanations for it. But does God, and the answer I like is he does, but he doesn't care more about your being comfortable than his will being done. So I'm like, all right, we're supposed to love. We're supposed to love, and love isn't just a word. So like I feel like churches need to come together despite the race, love on each other, come out of your comfort zones, talk about what's going on.
Yeah, because I would even pitch it a different way, like an old preacher put it to me one time. How uncomfortable are you willing to be to love somebody else? Now that's a question.
That is a question.
And I think I think that's a question that our whole nation could wrestle with right now.
Absolutely.
How uncomfortable am I going to be willing to be to love somebody else?
Absolutely.
Because if you're my brother in Christ, as weird as this sounds, I have more in common with you immediately than a white man who doesn't call Christ Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Isn't that the book? Isn't that what it's about?
Yep.
And the same would be true for someone that's not an American, someone that lives on the other side. If they're a follower of Jesus, I'm with them and they're with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that's the church united.
Yeah.
That's the ideal, the beloved community that we're aspiring for.
Absolutely. So
All right.
I feel like
what goofy questions are you?
I got
them.
But yeah, all pastors really should, white, black, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you should reach out, and churches should come together, have worship nights, hang out, go to a barbecue together as churches, black, white, whatever. They need to do all that stuff. That's how I feel. And I might go on a rant a little bit, but that's one thing that really bothers me. It's when you don't have a church that's like going out into the community, reaching, actually putting where church isn't coming on Sundays and Wednesdays, sitting down. Oh my, I don't like that at all. Like you step out, go do stuff, be in your community.
Church is a lot like protest. Here's the thing. I can get 600 people to show up at a protest and hold a sign. Yeah. Can I get 600 people on Monday morning to do what it takes to reconcile? So I can get 300 people in a church building or 1,000 people watching online, but come Monday morning, are you going to live it? That's what it always comes down to. It's easier, the strength in numbers. I'll go hang out with the crowd and cheer. But, I really don't think God needs cheerleaders. He needs people can get their hands dirty.
Yep.
And take risk. It's a risky thing, especially now to just to say, we need to work toward racial reconciliation. You alienate 25% of the people immediately because they think you're pushing something. Well, I am pushing something because we have to do better.
Yeah,
we have to do better. Okay, I quit preaching and went to meddling. All right, your favorite athlete?
Ooh, favorite athlete. Oh, man. Favorite athlete. I got a few that I like. I guess favorite, R.I.P. Kobe Bryant, but I got to go with Kobe because it's that Mamba mentality. I'm all about that. go get it done. That killer instinct, I love it.
Oh, you got to go to my kid's room before you leave.
You got Kobe.
Kobe's everywhere, man. Yeah,
He's a good guy right there.
Now, you said you didn't watch a lot of some sports, but do you have a favorite team? College, professional?
Right now, I don't know. At the moment, I don't know because I don't keep up with it. I was like, I'm a big Tom Brady fan. So
this interview is over.
I'm a winner, bro. When I started watching, he was winning. I'm like, I like him.
Yeah.
He's
at Tampa this
I
year,
know.
so.
I'm ready to see that.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You walk into Sefco, all right? You walk into Sefco. I don't know if they're all set up the same way, but let's just say the produce, the food, the snacks are on the left side. What's your go-to snack?
Sure, I'm not a snack guy.
He's pure. He told us tonight all he drinks is juice, tea, and water.
And graham crackers.
What would I get? Oh, that's a good question. I'm not a big.
Your mama said, "Come on, son." Lots of ends.
Oh, she said Cowboys. Yes. Yes. Amen.
Here she goes. Oh, mama, I didn't know he was watching. Shout out to my mama.
Oh yeah. Okay, favorite artist or band?
Who favorite artist? All right.
He's got to give us a snack before he can leave.
Yeah, I get it. Favorite artist. I love if we're talking Christian rap because that's
Anybody.
Anybody?
Anybody.
I gotta go with a dude named Aha Giselle. He's a Christian rapper, but he's not like. I like it how he does it. Like he's chill with it and he just lives through his words. Like it's not like you have some Christian rappers who go extra hard. Jesus, scripture.
Yeah.
He's like real life God. Like,
He's a good rapper who happens to be a Christian.
Yeah,
and it rolls over.
and that's why he's my favorite. If we're talking secular world, I like Drake. But if we're talking like all over, I put him above Drake because I like what he talk about.
All right, favorite snack, and we're done.
Favorite snack.
Man, for me, it's like depends on the day.
Yeah.
But I'm not. And see, I'm a hot meal guy. Like
Your mama says shake. You like milkshakes?
She said
I like
pizza.
milkshake. My
And
mama
shake.
telling
Your mama
everything.
knows you.
Yeah, she do. She telling everything.
Miss Anita, thank you for watching tonight. We appreciate that.
Shout out to my mama. Guys, since she watching, I give a shout out to my mama. You seeing me now. It's because I got a lot of that fire and personality that she got.
I love that.
She's a sweet lady, even though she's strong. Strong and sweet.
Strong. That's
Strong.
good.
Very
We have a friend, he plays drums in our band, and he says this, and this is to Tim. He says this to you, and he's right. Music has been a bridge for hundreds of years, and I hope it plays a part in moving us all forward. I think that's really important.
And that's why I speak on we need to get together and have worship night because it breaks up so much stuff. And the crazy thing is different music from different, like, because I grew up in, like, black church. And so once I got to school as a white evangelical, it was a culture shock. I was sitting in chapel every week like, what are they
Sitting on your
playing?
hands. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But after you sit in there, you start listening to the words, you like, wow, like this is so deep. They may not be yelling it like we would, but it is so deep. So like it's definitely a bridge, and like as you once you allow yourself to go into, it's like wow, like there's so much. This side gives this, and this side gives that. When we bring it together, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Like I see how our heaven's gonna be like this.
Yeah, it's hard to hate people if you're singing with them and eating with them.
That's true.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that the primary early things the church did together was they sang and worshiped together and they broke bread together, and that more than theology created the community that they had. Yeah. Jalen, thanks for coming tonight to the house here.
Absolutely.
And sharing with us. We'll keep you up to date on the things that he is doing, and I think tonight he was just beautifully gracious and gave just a fantastic perspective. And I know your mama's proud. I'm proud of you. I'm old enough to be your father, so I can say that. And hopefully, as things continue to progress in your life, we'll hear from you again. I know you're not going away anywhere.
Yeah, man, I love it. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely.
Here, man.
Absolutely.
And since the moment I met Pastor over here, I was like, yeah, I need to get in this church, get around him or something, because I know you're powerful. And then be able to speak with you and both of y'all is just, y'all some great men. I would love to be around you guys some more. So
We're going to make sure of that.
let's do it.
All right, Sunday we'll see y'all right here at 10 o'clock. The whole band will be back together, I hope. Sarah Ann will be back with a special song, and Ricky back on the bass, and we're going to have a great time, and can hardly wait till Sunday morning. Thanks, Garrett, for all your hard work.
Hey,
Thanks,
you're welcome,
Jalen.
man.
All right,
Thanks, Jalen.
y'all have a great night.
Was a time of the preacher when a story begun. The choice of a woman and the love of a man, and how he loved her so dearly. He went out of his mind. Well, she left him for